We'll start with the Professionalism Policy Report number 23060, Superintendent Taha and Director Ennis.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth. I'm going to ask Superintendent Taha to speak to this.
Thank you, Director Ennis. Good evening, trustees. Through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to trustees, senior team, members of the public. Before you for a decision is the Professionalism Policy. As you're aware, trustees, the Professionalism Policy and the findings of the consultation process has been brought before you previously on February 23rd and March 1st, I believe. Also, as you're aware, last week at Committee of the Whole, staff and trustees engaged in a fulsome discussion in relation to this policy and how it engages other policies and legislation. Before I turn it over to trustees for any questions or comments, on behalf of Director Ennis and the senior team, I would like to thank trustees, the Standing Committee on the Document Review. Did I get that right? Governance Document Review Standing Committee, all of our stakeholders for their input and their insights and participation in the consultation process. That includes obviously parents, students, school council, advisory groups, obviously trustees, and of course our union partners. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. And before we begin the questions, I just want to remind everybody that at last week's Committee of the Whole, we had quite a fulsome discussion on this. So I will now start off with the questions on the speakers list, and that will start with Vice Chair Rocha.
Thank you, through you, Chair. First off, I want to say thank you for the multiple times that you have presented at board and the consultation that has taken place. I will start by saying that I will not be supporting this policy this evening, and here's my rationale. I think it's been made abundantly clear that we do have the policies, procedures, and regulations in place that address all forms of professionalism. And when I looked at the draft policy that's been presented, there's really nothing new. It's really a summary of everything that exists, so it begs the question, do we really need this? And in my opinion, we do not. As Chair Shuttleworth said, at last week's Committee of the Whole, there was a very fulsome discussion as to the merits and the need for this policy. And I think based on that discussion and knowing that Director Ennis has suggested and agreed to looking at other policies where we can perhaps strengthen some language or reference different regulations that address this topic. For all those reasons, I will not be supporting the motion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rocha. Seeing no further questions, I'm just going to add to what Trustee Rocha spoke to. And again, I am in a similar position as Trustee Rocha because I think we have a lot of policies that are already in place at the board that we really need to focus on what we have. And rather than create a new document, which might muddy the water, we need to ensure that the language that is clear in the policies that we have to ensure that professionalism is at our schools. When I look at the feedback we received from the surveys that went out, there was a lot of asks for clarity and specificity and definitions and examples and additional detail. So with that, I think for us to focus on those pieces, using the information we have from the policy that has been looked at over and over again to add to the existing policies that we have, I think our time is better served doing that. Thank you. Trustee Daniele.
Thank you very much. I appreciate what you've both said, and I am in agreement. I just wondered if the director had anything to add in terms of your suggestions to firm up the policies that we already have.
Thank you, Trustee Daniele. Through the chair, I certainly am in agreement with the proposal and direction to strengthen the existing policies and procedures that we have. And certainly, as we move forward, that is something that I am committed to doing along with staff.
Thank you, Director Ennis.
Okay, so I'm going to read the motion. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the professionalism policy appended to report 23060, and I so move. Vice Chair Rocha, would you like to second that motion?
I will second.
Thank you very much. Are you ready for the question? Please cast your votes. So remember, you're voting yes if you support the motion. You're voting no if you want to not support the motion. All right, so I can't. So that does not carry by unanimous dissent. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Superintendent Taha, for the work that you've done on this policy. And as Vice Chair Rocha said, for the multiple times you have come to the board to present to us. Okay, we are now up to item 4. Vice Chair Rocha, are there any questions from the public this evening?
Yes, through you, Chair, there are a few questions from the public this evening. So 2 questions are very similar in nature, and it has to do with, given that the professionalism policy did not get approved this evening, and instead the board is looking at strengthening language in existing related policies. The public is interested in knowing how that will be achieved.
Thank you very much for the question, Vice Chair Rocha. I'm going to ask Superintendent Taha to respond.
Thank you, Director Ennis. Through you, Vice Chair Rocha. Through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to trustees and to Vice Chair Rocha. Obviously, the board does have a policy and procedures framework, and the document is our guiding document, a roadmap as to how policies and procedures are reviewed. Typically speaking, these policies and procedures are on a set schedule. So that will obviously be guiding our review process, and it guides our review processes for all policies and procedures. Now, in the context of the professionalism policy and the consultation process that we had undertaken, and we're grateful for that, throughout that work, we are very familiar with the policies and procedures that exist that directly intersect with the professionalism policy guiding principles and some of the provisions that policy had specified. So much of the work in relation to how we can take the feedback, the work, and the insight and the perspectives that have been gained from the consultation process and the discussions throughout the last 3 months have been done, I would say. We know that there are 2 or 3 policies and companion administrative procedures that directly speak to professionalism, civility, and so on. So we know what work needs to be done as far as the existing policies being amended to reflect some of these values and themes that emerged. And as discussed at Committee of the Whole, we see this work being brought to you early in the fall, as early as September. Being brought to you early in the fall, as early as September.